Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome back to Robmotive JT. Today, I was out doing some things with the Jeep Gladiator, and I was kind of looking at it a little bit. And you know, I'm not a big fan of washing vehicles. Matter of fact, it's the least favorite thing about vehicles for me that there is, which is kind of strange because I do have a cabinet full of cleaning products and towels and rags and all kinds of stuff to wash vehicles. So you'd think, if you looked in my cabinets here, that I actually like doing it, but I don't. So there's one problem with the Jeep Gladiator for me, or with doing this with any truck really, and that is big tires. Big tires are bad for the Jeep Gladiator. Now, you have to be someone who's concerned about the appearance of your truck, obviously, or it doesn't really matter. Now, let's take a look. I do have bigger tires and a bit of wheel poke on my Jeep Gladiator. You guys can see here, they stick out. And they stick out about, I don't know, depends on the camera angle, I suppose, but about 2 to 3 inches, I'd say, out beyond the fenders. And before we go any further, don't get me wrong. I know I've caused this myself, right? But it's the trade-off to have what I think is the best look for the truck. So anyway, I've put these aftermarket wheels and tires on, and of course, as I just showed you, we get some wheel poke. The wheel pokes outside of the fender well. Now, unless you have mud flaps or something, which I can't stand, by the way. I'm not a fan of mud flaps. I just don't like the look of them. And honestly, to have mud flaps on this truck that would solve my problem, they would stick out just as far as the tires do, right? So you'd see here, the mud flaps would stick out about 4 or 5 inches, and I think that would just be an ugly, ugly look. But the problem is the junk that it throws down the side of the truck. I mean, look, I've got nice little marks, little tracks of mud thrown down the side of the truck. Now, that's not so bad. I mean, it is a Jeep, it is a truck. If you use it or even just drive it around, you're going to get stuff on the side of it anyway, right? Not as much as this. The problem, however, lies within what is thrown back across the side of the truck. Now, I'm talking about little stones, grit, all that kind of stuff. Because as it's wicked off of the tire and thrown back, it, of course, is scraping across the paint. And that's going to leave little micro scratches, maybe even more if you get something that's a little big. You know, with these tires, of course, pebbles and rocks and things get stuck in the tread. Sooner or later, those rocks are going to fly out. And it may just happen that they're going to fly out and go right down the side of your truck. And I wonder if there's anybody out there who's ever maybe washed their truck, keeps it looking real nice, but has the bigger, more aggressive wheels, or tires, I should say, that actually poke out, and wonder what all of these lines are on the side of their truck. They're real careful. They use the 2-bucket method, you know, one for the dirty bits, one for the cleaner bits, different mitts and sponges and all that stuff to keep things clean as they're going, but still have all these scratches and things down the side of their truck. Obviously, it's coming from the tires themselves. Unless, of course, you're running around out in the wilderness somewhere and you're going against brush and tree branches and all that kind of stuff. But you're going to get all kinds of junk. Like you can see here, this is a perfect illustration of it. I mean, look at that. Almost looks like intended patterning on the truck. And it's the same thing on both sides. If we look over here at the driver's side, you can see, maybe not so well in this light, but there are marks and things down the side of the truck, obviously coming right off the wheel. You can see it right here. You can see where the fender kind of deflects a little bit, and then there's a growing pattern as it goes back to the back of the truck. Now, what about the back? Of course, I have the same thing back there, the wheels that poke out, or the tires that poke out because of the wheels. But since we have such a short distance back here, we don't get a lot. You can see a bit of it right here. And if you're going to get any scratching and stuff, you're going to get it right at this point because, again, it's going to come off the tire and throw it right across here. And I'm wondering over time, since I have a steel bumper back there, And this will be very apparent if rocks and things are doing any damage. But how much of this coating is eventually going to get sloughed off, and I'll start to have rust and stuff back there. I mean, you can see on this bumper right here at this seam, we've got a little rust right here already, and there hasn't been anything done to the bumper. So you know it's going to happen. Now, how do you avoid it? The only way to avoid it is to stay with wheels that keep everything inside the fender well, or by going with mud flaps, as I have mentioned. Something that's not an option for me because I don't like the look. Now, more importantly, I suppose, and I'm aware of this myself when I'm driving, say, on the freeway, and I live down in Texas, South Texas, where chips and cracks in windshields are very common. You see them almost everywhere you go. I would say probably 80–90% of the vehicles that are out there have some kind of a chip or even cracked windshields. You see them all the time. And that's because of two things, I think. One is that the pavement gets so hot, all those little pebbles in the asphalt break loose, and then they go flying. And two, people like me drive around with tires and things that are popping out of the wheel wells. So there is a bit of a safety concern, or even a care for other drivers, I suppose, when you do this. You know, I mentioned when I'm on the freeway, I always try to stay back. You can't avoid the semis and things, of course. Semis are horrible. I've had 2 chips in windshields from semis that I stayed back from that were even over in different lanes beyond me, but still got hit by flying little missiles from the road. So if you care about your neighbor, I guess, the key here is to keep your tires inside your fender well, or use mud flaps to keep those rocks and things from flying all over the place and hitting everybody else. The other problem with that is even if you don't ding the windshield, you get those chips and things right across the front of your truck. Now, the solution to that, and what I have found with the Tacoma out there, you can see it has a stone and bug deflector across the front. And so far for me, that's worked really well. I don't have any chips in the windshield on that truck so far, nor do I have any scratches or anything on the hood. And I guess those kind of things, the bug and stone deflectors, are kind of like seat covers. You know, you go without them until your hood starts to get messed up a little bit, and then you go ahead and put one of those on to hide what's underneath. They do really well at that, but I think in the case of the Tacoma out there, I had it on from pretty much the beginning just to protect it so I never had that issue. And it's something that I need to do with the Jeep Gladiator, get something across the front there so that when people like me who drive around with tires like that, doesn't throw up stuff that's going to damage my hood. Anyway, leave a comment. Let me know if you agree. Are bigger tires bad for the Jeep Gladiator? Not to mention the people behind you? I'd be curious to know what you think. Also, real quick, I do have 2 additional channels. Mod Driven, all about the new to me Honda Civic Sport 6-speed manual, and Rob Motive, all about the Toyota Tacoma. Check them out, and if you're interested, why not subscribe? And while you're at it, smash the subscribe button here too. Thanks for watching. Stay safe out there. Bye.